After years of Ox and before him Valdez complaining about teams not using well, I feel like finally we're starting to see what this pick is capable of in not just the, you know, like he clears waves, like, but particularly in the proactive macro sense. The amount of gold it allows you to secure early on makes it even harder, even not regarding like how well Peanut and Zeka played, right?
Yeah.
To actually build a generous gold lead in the early to mid game. So Ziggs to me needs to be prioritized one way or another if you are to do well in these playoffs.
Well, Azir, Nasus, and Lilia, they were the bans for Hanwha Life Esports in game number 1. That is likely to change as they do have to ban away the Rumble this time. Zyra going to be taken away as the third ban. Really interesting. I think angling towards a Vi first pick here for Owner perhaps. Because otherwise I could imagine that will just come in as Lilia still going to be taken away here. And so the Nasus still up. Could theoretically be picked. See what the Garens are going to look like, as there is the Vi first pick that we were talking about. No surprise there. And where do Hanwha Life Esports go with it this time as Ziggs is up, guys?
Yeah.
Just a word of warning.
I do think that the Ziggs is a little bit more reliant on a good comp, but you still pick it, don't get me wrong. But specifically denying Vi Ziggs, I think, is a really good call, because Vi Ziggs, as we saw, like, as Ox was saying, like, Guma couldn't do anything in that game. Like, he couldn't have done anything better because there is no counterplay to someone ulting you, and then the combo that followed, you know, instead going to go towards a Sejuani, which is a great pick for him individually, but we have actually seen struggle. This is something we saw Aining pull out as well, which is the Seraphine, which I personally wouldn't dislike. It'd be very funny to me if we're just ending up with straight up, oh, there it is, yeah, mage matchups towards the bot side of the map. But I gotta say, you need a consistent source of 80 damage from somewhere. Like, you can't just have Seraphine and then Vi Nasus. We saw DK try this and it just didn't work, right? So either we flex the Nasus towards top, or we need to find ourselves an 80 carry mid, where I don't think Faker has looked great on them. So we'll see what T1 their solution to this problem is. It could, of course, also still be Seraphine as a support, but I don't think that that's very likely.
Yep, and we can also see whether Hanwha Life Esports do want to give counterpick over to Doran as well. I think that that can be very valuable for this team on the red side. And so expect to see a support locked in for Delight. I'm surprised that we haven't seen the priority on Senna be a little bit higher here. As we see the Seraphine locked in, Senna is going to be banned away here by Delight in the next round. And his Rel also going to hit the deck. But there are plenty of engaged supports if that's where they want to go. His Alistair, his Rakan. We saw Rakan in the last game. He was fine. And so I don't think Delight is really sweating for who to play in this one. Just trying to work out who to ban.
I'm wondering if you're ever going to go for a double Enchanter bot lane just because you're playing into Ziggs and Smolder. I think both those picks do rely, Ziggs less so, but Smolder in particular, upon being able to poke and then slowly chip down the health of their opponents. I do think the Senna ban, even though I don't like Senna into Ziggs because Senna doesn't really have the health to deal with a late game Ziggs, her healing power on this patch is obviously completely insane. I do think that's one of the things that you can struggle with when it comes to the Smolder. But the funny part to me is that, like, Ziggs could still, we don't think it's gonna be, but Ziggs could still be mid. Smolder can be flexed into multiple positions. Hanwha Life haven't really given too much away, and it does look like they are gonna most likely leave counterpick to Doran after we've seen where T1 puts their Nasus and where everything on T1 is going. But it could be Smolder top, it could be Smolder mid, which I think is most likely. But
yeah, there's flexes everywhere.
It's hard to read drafts on red side. And I think that is something that Desk highlighted it. Hanwha Life is doing here what T1 didn't. T1 actually showcased their draft as...
Whoa, that's Olaf Shen!
Okay, well, now I still don't know what's... Is it Shen support into the Leona?
I think it kind of has to be.
It has to be, right? Well, I mean, it could be Nessa support with WMAX.
T1 have picked a lot of melee champions and Seraphine.
I don't think that really works into the Ziggs. Is it... Okay, so most likely...
Do we just play Vladimir again? Well, Renekton is just going to be locked in.
R5 Renekton,
the good old R5 Renekton. We've gone back to the KT strats. Sejuani Renekton, baby.
Okay, but that is itself counterpick.
Yeah, it's not great.
It makes Peanut's life better. That's the main thing. It does not make Doran's life great. I'm not too sure about that one.
Do you know what they've done? They've they've nailed a target onto Doran and said, you can have him. Just let us stack up our Smolder and take turrets on Ziggs. Like, he's around asking to be stolen.
League is rapidly regressing, okay? Because it's deteriorating. Because what this is basically the same draft that Hanwha had, where it's like, Fi goes in, and then